the chair of the inquiry wants access to all of these notebooks and WhatsApp messages between Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak, for instance, many senior figures in government at the time, and she wants full access to all of them. Now, the Cabinet Office have said that a lot of them are completely irrelevant to the COVID inquiry, and they're not going to hand them over. So, as you say, there's a 4 p.m. deadline, but as things stand at the moment, it looks like this one is probably heading for the courts, and that's before we get to the actual inquiry itself. So it's all turned into a bit of a mess.
It's a mess, Kevin, because the government set up the inquiry. They asked, presumably, Lady Hallett to chair it, and now they could end up in court before anything really happens. But this isn't Boris's decisions, my understanding, Kevin. It is the Cabinet Office which is saying no to Lady Hallett.
Yeah, that's right, Andrew. And, the thing is, if you set up a public inquiry, it's easy to set them up. It can solve a political problem in the short term. You say it's going to be a public inquiry, kicks it into the long grass a little bit, but the law of unintended consequences then comes into play, and it looks as though the government is now squeamish, to put it mildly, at the prospect of a lot of these messages being released. Now, I would imagine, the ones that have absolutely no relevance whatsoever to the pandemic outbreak won't ever be released into the public eye. However, the concern is, I suppose, that they're going to have a lot of these private messages, quite off the cuff messages, I would imagine, between ministers at the time and Boris Johnson. Obviously, if you remember, it was a very highly pressured, uncertain time, and it could potentially be pretty embarrassing. So you can understand from a government point of view why they might not want these messages to be released unredacted. However, I think for the inquiry to have any credibility at all, then the chair of the inquiry needs to have full access to everything that she wants to see.
You can imagine what they're worried about, ministers, at Boris as well, is the odd gag they made in a WhatsApp message.
Yes.
Gallows humour, which then, when seen in the context of the inquiry and all those people dying, people wouldn't see the funny side of it.
You take it out of context, absolutely.
That's going to be the worry, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. We probably wouldn't want people seeing our own WhatsApp messages, because a lot of them you're not even thinking half the time when you send off a quick, off-the-cuff message. But, as I say, at that time, it was very highly pressured. We obviously saw the WhatsApp messages that were released by Isabel Oakeshott when she did the Matt Hancock book, and the political storm that those caused. Now, if you can imagine, that would be tenfold if it involved Boris Johnson as well. And as I say, this is before the inquiry even begins in earnest. And I agree with you, Andrew. I think this is going to go on for years. These inquiries tend to turn out that way. And I think a lot of the time the public think, can we not just move on, perhaps? However, as I say, if you've set up a public inquiry and the chair wants access to documents, then you've got to hand them over, or else the inquiry is compromised.